Cheryl from HR called security on me for smiling. Let that sink in. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't throwing a chair or waving my badge like a deranged prophet of capitalism. I was smiling. Because in that moment, I had just signed a backdoor deal that would amputate 48% of Nexora's revenue stream, and she had no idea. Her little power trip had expired 10 minutes ago, she just didn't know it yet. But let's rewind 24 hours. When she delivered her now famous line, "You should feel lucky we keep you." I was standing in a windowless room that HR insisted was a retention consultation pod. It looked like a broom closet with a hostage lamp. The kind of place you'd interrogate someone who stole Post-its. She said the line with that upward inflection Midwestern moms use right before they slap you with a passive-aggressive casserole. I didn't flinch. I didn't respond. I just stared at the beige wall behind her, where someone had tried to hang an employee values poster that was curling at the edges like it wanted out too. She mistook my silence for submission. That was her first mistake. What she didn't know? I'd been poached 3 weeks earlier by our former competitor, Atlas Media. They wanted me, not my title. They didn't need me to pitch myself, they just needed my contacts list and the password to my own brain. I had already met with their board. I had already secured a clause that gave me 3% equity for every client I brought in. And I had already prepared a personal statement, tailored for each of the 11 clients who had worked with me, not Nexora. The paperwork was signed at 8:04 a.m. Cheryl called me in at 8:26. That meeting, her little sadist monologue about loyalty and synergy alignment, lasted 11 minutes. I spent every one of those minutes mentally plotting out which client I'd flip first. Edge bio, definitely. The CEO had been hinting for months that he was tired of Nexora's strategic ambiguity, which is corporate speak for we haven't delivered jack since Q1. He liked clarity. He liked control. And he loved me because I never sold him bullshit. When he texted last week asking if we were still cool to meet off-platform, I knew he'd smelled the decay in Nexora's walls too. So that night we met. Not in an office, not on Zoom, but a candlelit wine bar downtown where NDAs were whispered over Zinfandel and quarterly bonuses were wagered like poker chips. I laid out my vision. Atlas Media wasn't just buying me, they were buying the future. Predictable deliverables, real-time metrics, no more bloated billing cycles, no more waiting 3 weeks for deck with recycled clip art and a tentative next step slide. He didn't even blink. He signed, one down. By 10 a.m. the next morning, I'd secured 2 more. One of them was so furious about Nexora's automated renewal charges, he offered to pay extra just to make the switch hurt. And here's the fun part, I hadn't quit yet. I was still technically on payroll, still showing up to Slack calls, still attending all-hands meetings, where I watched Cheryl and the exec team fumble through their employee culture roadmap while I covertly moved clients like chess pieces off their board. But back to security. They showed up because I laughed. Cheryl had just wrapped her weekly morale check-in with, "We're doing amazing things, and it's all thanks to our people like you." I let out one small, involuntary chuckle, and suddenly she was on the phone whispering that I seemed emotionally unstable. I didn't fight it. I walked out with a smile so calm it scared them more than if I'd screamed, because they couldn't see the iceberg, but they were already on the Titanic. The quarterly reports were coming, and this time I was the red line. The security guard, his name tag said Jim, looked more uncomfortable than I did. He kept his eyes glued to the floor as he followed me through the glass hallway like a guilt-ridden mall cop escorting someone who'd stolen a granola bar. "You're not in trouble," he muttered. "They just asked me to, you know." "Oh, I know," I said. "This is just a vibe check. Cheryl likes drama. Keeps her from noticing her marriage is dead." Jim gave me a tight-lipped smile like he was swallowing laughter he wasn't allowed to have. I liked Jim. Once helped me carry 6 boxes of printed pitch decks when Cheryl told me the interns were too busy reorganizing the team-building closet. We passed my desk, still pristine, still productive-looking, and I grabbed my bag, careful not to disturb the potted fern that had more life in it than our last 3 campaigns combined. Jim walked me out the side entrance, not the lobby. Cheryl didn't want witnesses. That, more than anything, told me how scared they were. Good. Fear meant chaos. And chaos, for someone like me, was a harvest. Now I had no reason to hold back. By lunchtime, the 6th client had confirmed. A mid-tier e-commerce brand that sold organic pet shampoos, run by a founder who thought quarterly revenue projections were a manifestation exercise. She didn't care about business lingo. She cared that I remembered her dog's name was Pickle and that I'd fixed her onboarding pipeline when Nexora kept sending her invoices in pesos. She followed me, not the brand. I was building momentum like an avalanche, quiet, controlled, and just loud enough to echo. But the real rupture came at 3:47 p.m. That's when Nora texted. "Nora Park, I just got a call from Cheryl. She asked if I'd noticed anything off about you lately. You've been distant. What's happening?" Nora was my only friend left inside. We came in together 7 years ago as interns, survived 5 rounds of layoffs, and once built a full Q4 campaign using nothing but Canva and passive-aggressive prayers. She was smart, honest, and already being groomed by Cheryl to lead soft. I debated ignoring the message. Instead, I typed me, I'm not distant, I'm strategic, and you should be too. 5 minutes later, she responded, Nora, you're leaving. Me, no, I'm upgrading. She didn't reply, not immediately, but she'd read it, and I knew that seed would grow. Cheryl thought I was the only infection. She didn't realize I'd already laced the water supply. That night, I updated the Atlas roster. 8 clients signed, 2 pending, 1 hesitant. That one, Blue North Capital, our largest, the Golden Goose. The reason Nexora still had funding at all. They'd been cagey, sure. Their CMO was old school and borderline paranoid. But 2 weeks ago, he'd asked for a second pair of eyes on his Q2 projections. I did the work for free, polished it like a diamond, and he'd emailed back, if you ever decide to jump ship, let me know which lifeboat you're in. Now was the time. I drafted the email, saved it, didn't send it yet, because this next one would be surgical. One wrong word and it'd spook them. One right one. Nexora would hemorrhage 7 figures, but before I could send it, I got a calendar invite. Subject, urgent performance concerns time, 8:30 a.m. tomorrow attendees. Cheryl HR, Brandon legal, me no description. Just vibes, so they were onto me. Perfect. Let the fun begin. I showed up early. That's the thing about corporate ambushes, they expect you to be rattled, scrambling in 10 minutes late with dry mouth and apology eyes. Instead, I was already seated when Cheryl and Brandon walked in, clutching their MacBooks like Bibles at an exorcism. I had a black coffee in one hand and a leather folio in the other. Inside, client migration logs, contract termination clauses, and my favorite, screenshots. Lots of screenshots. Cheryl opened with a smile so artificial it should have come with a barcode. Well, thanks for making time this morning. Just wanted to touch base regarding some behavioral concerns we've been noticing. Behavioral? I echoed, keeping my voice calm. Warm, like I wasn't preparing to eviscerate them with their own policies. Yes, Brandon cut in too fast. There've been reports of disengagement, disruptive laughter during meetings. Multiple extended breaks without calendar updates. Extended breaks, I sipped my coffee. You mean lunch? Brandon blinked. Cheryl shifted in her chair. And she added carefully, some clients have expressed uncertainty about your role here. We've had some concerning feedback. Indications that you may be misrepresenting your position to external stakeholders. Ah, there it was. They didn't know what I'd done, but they felt it like a draft under a locked door. I leaned forward slightly, tilting my head. Do you have documentation of these concerns? Brandon cleared his throat. This isn't disciplinary, not yet, just an exploratory conversation. Then let me help you explore, I said, opening my folio and sliding a printed email across the table. It was from Blue North Capital's CMO, thanking me, asking for recommendations beyond Nexora. Cheryl's face cracked a little at the edges. This is privileged, she stammered. You're not authorized to be appreciated, I asked. To be offered options? You know what's funny? That man still thinks I work here. Brandon's fingers twitched toward his trackpad. Probably checking Slack, panicking. Wondering who else I'd talk to. The answer? All of them, I stood. This was fun, I said. But I have a call in 7 minutes with someone who still knows how to say thank you without sounding like a threat. You're walking out on an active investigation, Brandon warned. No, I'm walking into a meeting with your former largest client. I didn't wait for their response. Outside, my phone buzzed. Text from Nora. Nora, they're spiraling. Just told Sarah from finance to pull all your email activity from the last 6 months. Also, Blue North's calendar shows a meeting with you at 9. Me, 9:03. I'm letting them sweat for 3. Nora, you magnificent psycho. Me, you still want out. Nora? Yeah, I do. I added her to the shared folder. The one titled Escape Hatch. And I walked across the street to the rooftop cafe where my coffee would be served in a real mug and not an HR-issued paper cup. The wind was sharp, the city loud, and I had 12 unread messages from clients asking if they could follow me. But it was the 13th message that changed everything. Unknown number, nice moves. I'd like to talk about acquiring you. Full buyout, confidentially. No name, no signature. Just a link to a burner Zoom. I clicked it, because the game had just changed again. The Zoom window blinked open like a trapdoor. No video, just audio. A crisp, male voice, mid-40s maybe, spoke like he'd already read my entire strategy binder and didn't need small talk to feel superior. I'm with Trask and Halberd. We've been watching the Nexora situation unfold with great interest. I leaned back in my chair, letting the street noise from below drift through the mic. Funny, I didn't realize my career came with a spectator section. We make it our job to notice undervalued assets, he said, and you, Miss Sloan, have been tragically mispriced. I didn't respond, just sipped my second coffee of the morning and waited. People like this hated silence more than they feared God. He filled it fast. We want to buy Atlas's contract with you. Roll you into our portfolio. You'd bring your clients under the Trask umbrella. Title bump. Triple your current equity. Full team, your own budget. I raised an eyebrow despite him not being able to see it. And Nexora? They'll fold in 6 months. We'll scoop the pieces. You, however, would already be running the replacement, so that was the play. Not just stealing clients, but building the new empire on the ashes of the old one. It was tempting, too tempting, and that made me nervous. What makes you think I'm for sale? Pause, then. 'Cause you already walked away from pride. That means you're playing for legacy now. And legacy doesn't scale on loyalty. Touché? I told him I'd consider it. I didn't say yes, I didn't say no. I didn't blink. After we ended the call, I stared at the skyline for a long minute. Trask and Halberd was serious money, legacy money, and they didn't court people, they acquired them. Which meant they'd done their homework. They knew who I was, what I'd done, what I could do. The question was who told them? Back at my apartment, I booted up Atlas's internal portal and checked activity logs on the shared migration folder. Nothing suspicious at first glance, until I spotted it, one download. IP traced back to an Atlas exec in DC, a guy I'd met once in passing at a company offsite. Jason Halberd's cousin, so that's how the whisper trail started. I had three choices: stick with Atlas, finish the play, take the short win, sell to Trask and Halberd, take the leap, bet big, go solo. That last one had always been the fantasy. My own firm, my rules. A consultancy built not on buzzwords but results, but that required infrastructure and trust, which is when I remembered Nora. I called her. Are you still at your desk? I asked. She snorted. Physically, yes. Spiritually, I've already thrown a Molotov through the mainframe. I'm starting something, I said, bigger than Atlas, bigger than Trask. I need someone who speaks fluent numbers and smells bullshit in a balance sheet from 50 paces. There was a pause. You're serious, she said. I'm not joking. Nora exhaled like she was exercising 7 years of repressed talent. Tell me what to burn first. I grinned. You're hired. We met that night in a parking garage. Level 3. I handed her a burner laptop and a bottle of overpriced tequila. She handed me the internal HR forecast for Q3 and a USB drive labeled Cheryl's Sins. Turns out, Nexura's HR department had a lot of secrets, and we were about to make them public, one client at a time. The first file on the USB was titled, Confidential Comp Previews Final Use This One XLSX, Classic Cheryl, naming convention of a drunk squirrel. But what was inside? Worse than I imagined. Unequal pay across gender lines. Senior women with higher KPIs earning less than junior men. Bonuses were routed to strategic partnerships that traced back to Cheryl's college roommate's consulting firm, which, surprise, didn't exist on LinkedIn, Google, or any IRS record I could find. And then there was the severance list. They'd flagged Nora for Q4 elimination. Quietly, with HR code budget streamline. Her name sat just above 3 other women from client ops, all of whom had glowing reviews. This wasn't budget, it was purge. Oh my god, Nora muttered, scrolling beside me. They were gonna kill me off like a side character in a budget PowerPoint. I looked at her. Still want out? She didn't answer. She just clicked the file named Vacation Approval Backlog, found Cheryl's unused 2-week block in Aruba, and said, how fast can you get me a company card? By midnight, the plan was alive. We weren't just jumping ship. We were flooding the deck on our way out. I sent an anonymous tip to Trask's internal ethics line, just a teaser, a pixelated spreadsheet cell showing the fraudulent vendor trail. I knew they'd sniff it out. And when they did, it would validate everything I hadn't said in that Zoom. By morning, Nora had built the shell of our new firm, Northfire Strategies. Name inspired by an inside joke from our intern days when we'd drink gas station wine and dream up brands we'd start after Cheryl finally cracked. Domain bought, landing page live. Placeholder text reading, what comes after legacy, precision. We made a list of clients to flip, ones we hadn't touched yet. The quiet ones. The whales still circling Nexura's sinking ship, oblivious to the waterline. But we needed something more. Proof. That's when I remembered the recordings. See, Nexura had this policy. All client onboarding calls were auto-recorded, stored for training and compliance. And guess who used to lead every onboarding until Cheryl exiled me to internal projects? Yours truly. I logged into the archive server using my still-active credentials and filtered by tags, Edge Bio, Blue North, Solara Tech. Boom, 73 call logs. And on call number 38, Cheryl flat out lied to a CFO about GDPR compliance. Told him we had an in-house data controller, when I knew for a fact we'd outsourced it to a Romanian subcontractor with a Gmail address and a Fiverr page. I clipped the audio, isolated the line, attached the contract she violated, drafted a short email with no signature. Subject, might be worth a listen before Q3. Sent it to Edge Bio's legal department from a secure proxy. Within 4 hours, they'd issued a breach notice. That's when things began to spiral for them. Slack messages flew like shrapnel. Cheryl was removed from the Leadership Pulse channel. My access was quietly revoked. An emergency board meeting appeared on Nexura's calendar with a subject line that just said, Crisis Response, 5 p.m., and then at 4:11 p.m., Nora got the call. Blocked number. Whispered voice. I'm not supposed to be doing this, the woman said, but you should know Brandon's building a retaliation case. They're trying to say you and Sloan colluded to sabotage Q2. Nora hit record mid-call. What's your name? She asked. I never said. Click. I stared at the waveform bouncing on her screen. Anonymous whistleblower, I said. Perfect. Let's flip the script. We weren't just the saboteurs. We were about to become the saviors. We didn't sleep. We didn't even pretend. By dawn, Nora was cross-referencing every contract Nexura had touched in the last 18 months. I was piecing together a digital autopsy of how Cheryl and Brandon had cooked the books to cover late deliverables and performance penalties. We weren't just nuking the reputation, we were drafting the obituary. At 7:42 a.m., I emailed Atlas. Subject, change of plans. Contract termination request. Body, effective immediately. Apologies for the turbulence. Northfire requires full autonomy. Attached, a wire transfer repaying the sign-on bonus in full, and a 10-line legal clause that made it very clear non-compete didn't cover what I'd just become. I was free. Burnt the contract, kept the clients. They didn't fight it, they couldn't. Their legal team knew if this got messy, they'd risk exposure too. Atlas didn't want war, they wanted distance. Silence. A clean break, good, let them run, because we had bigger things to blow up. 9 o'clock sharp, Blue North Capital's general counsel called. Not emailed, called, old money move. She asked one question, are you the one who sent the clip? I paused. Yes, I said, but I'm also the one who can fix the fallout. We met that afternoon, rooftop terrace, Midtown. She wore tortoiseshell glasses and a black pantsuit that looked like it had been pressed by a NASA engineer. You have 5 minutes, she said. I pulled out a flash drive. Loaded with call logs, emails, contract breaches, payment trails, and GDPR violations, each labeled like a missile. This is Nexara's real quarterly report. She didn't touch her coffee. I continued, you're going to be named in a class action suit within 90 days unless you distance yourself. Fast, loud, and strategically. And your solution? Move all active scopes to Northfire. We'll absorb the transition. We'll rebuild clean. We'll do it without costing you a single press release. She leaned back and studied me like a riddle. You're not pitching, you're negotiating. No, I said, I'm warning. She reached into her coat, pulled out a business card, and slid it across the table. You start Friday, and I want daily updates. As I stood, my phone buzzed. Nora, check your inbox. Now. I ran downstairs, stole a table outside a bagel shop, and opened the file. It was a leaked audio clip from Nexara's emergency board meeting. Brandon had left his mic hot during a rant. In it, he said the words, if we can frame Sloan for data theft, maybe we can stall long enough to buy back trust. Or at least pin the breach on her long enough to survive Q3. My name on tape, conspiracy, fraud, retaliation, and Cheryl, she didn't interrupt, she laughed. We had them, dead to rights. Nora and I stared at the waveform. Do we leak it? She asked. No. I said, a grin tugging at my cheek. We gift it. To who? I tilted my head. The same people they fear most. Clients? No. I tapped the screen, pulled up LinkedIn. The press. We sent the clip anonymously to Tech Ledger Weekly with one line of text. This is how Nexara handles Q3. By morning, it was front page. Exclusive. Nexara execs caught plotting retaliation against whistleblower-turned-competitor Cheryl's laugh was now public property. Brandon's plan dissected line by industry analysts who hadn't touched Nexara's name in a year, now dragging it through digital hell like a broken carcass in a lion's den. Clients panicked. Investors bailed, their Slack leaked. An internal memo surfaced begging employees to trust leadership while we course correct. Course correct? They were trying to steer a tombstone. Nora and I sat in my apartment watching the collapse live. She brought donuts. I brought champagne. Cheered every time another VP's LinkedIn status quietly changed to open to work. But the final domino fell at 2:16 p.m. Blue North issued a formal statement. Effective immediately, all Nexara contracts are suspended. We are transitioning all projects to a new consultancy, Northfire Strategies. The font they used was brutal, stark, black on white, no apology, just clean exit wounds. We didn't even get a chance to toast it, because just then my phone buzzed. Private number, I answered. Miss Sloan, the voice said low and calm. We represent several firms listed in your client portfolio. We've reviewed the allegations, the data, and the press coverage. Congratulations, congratulations, you've just triggered a competitive pivot across our sector. 6 agencies want to partner, 2 want to acquire. 1 wants to merge. I didn't say anything. I just closed my laptop and stood. City outside felt smaller now, manageable, like the battlefield had shrunk and we were the only ones still standing on it. The voice continued. We'd like to invite you to a private summit next week, 20 seats. 1 founder's chair is still open. You offering me a throne, I'm offering you infrastructure. Scaled. I didn't say yes, not yet, not while I could still smell Nexara's ashes. When I hung up, Nora was staring at me. Well, they want in, I said. Her eyes sparkled. You gonna take it? Maybe, I said, sipping the last of my coffee. But first what? I pulled up an old contact list, my first boss, the one who told me I'd never be more than support staff, the one who gave Cheryl her first promotion. I typed out a message, you still in corporate consulting? Great, thought you might want to update your forecasts, Northfire's hiring. But this time, I'm the one choosing who gets kept. Then I hit send. Waited, let them sweat now, let them all sweat. The inbox was silent for 11 hours. Then at 3:03 a.m., the reply landed, didn't expect to hear from you again. Impressive play, I suppose I underestimated you. I read it twice. The same man who once scolded me for talking too much in meetings now acknowledged the empire I'd built from the rubble of their disrespect. He didn't offer congratulations. He didn't ask for a job. Just that one line, I underestimated you. Good, let that haunt him. By Monday, Nexara's site was offline, their support bot replaced with a 404. Cheryl's LinkedIn had mysteriously gone private and Brandon's profile said he was taking time to reflect. Translation, lawyered up, spiraling, or both. Word on the street was their board had triggered a full audit. No spin. No scapegoats left to hide behind. Meanwhile, Nora and I sat in our new office. Glass walls, exposed brick. One potted cactus she named Middle Finger. We were onboarding our 12th client and had a waitlist forming that read like a Fortune 500 contact sheet. I walked into our tiny break room, still smelled like paint and ambition, and poured 2 glasses of bourbon. You realize what we did, right? I said. Nora took the glass. Vaporized a tech dinosaur? No, I said. We rewrote the survival guide. Because for years, I played by the rules, smiled during layoffs, took feedback from men who couldn't explain the tools I built. I sat through HR seminars that told me to lean in while being sidelined, silenced, then sanitized. And when I finally stood up, they laughed. They underestimated, until the reports dropped, until the clients walked, until the conference room turned crimson. Now Cheryl sells career reset webinars to laid-off marketing execs. Brandon consults for startups too small to Google his name. And me? I walk into boardrooms where no one dares ask me to smile. They just listen and write checks. Northfire isn't just a consultancy. It's a warning to every company that ever told a woman she was lucky to be kept. You're not keeping us anymore. We're coming for what's ours. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit him.